The surprising truth is this: sometimes the reason you look more tired isn't your skin, your age, or even your haircut, it's your hair color quietly working against you. Linda, a 65-year-old woman from Arizona, realized this one bright morning as she caught her reflection in the kitchen window. She hadn't changed her skincare routine. She hadn't switched her hairstyle. Yet something in her face felt different, less luminous, less defined, as if the light no longer knew where to land. Many American women over 60 experience this shift without ever naming it. As we age, our skin undergoes subtle transitions. A softer undertone, a slight loss of natural radiance, a gentler kind of contrast. These changes aren't flaws, they're simply part of evolving beauty. But when the hair color you've worn for years no longer aligns with those shifts, the entire face can look dull or older than it truly is. Not because you've changed dramatically, but because the color around your face hasn't evolved with you. What most women don't realize is that the wrong shade can flatten your features, mute your expression, or emphasize shadows you barely noticed before. And the right shade, often just a few tones away, can make your skin look clearer, your eyes brighter, and your presence more vibrant without trying to mimic youth. Hair color isn't just an aesthetic choice. It's the filter through which your face meets the world. This video isn't about chasing 20-year-old versions of ourselves. It's about choosing harmony. When your hair color supports your skin tone, instead of competing with it, your features come alive in a way that feels natural, effortless, and deeply confident. Today, we'll walk through 5 hair colors that can unintentionally make women over 60 look older, and, more importantly, the flattering alternatives that restore warmth, light, and dimension to your face. Once you understand how color interacts with mature skin, you'll know exactly how to choose shades that make you look radiant the moment you step into the mirror's reflection. Part 1: Jet Black. Jet black hair has a kind of power many women remember fondly. It carried drama, confidence, presence. For decades, it was the shade that made you feel put together no matter what. But as the skin softens and undertones shift with age, that same intensity can start to feel like it's working against you rather than for you. Barbara, a 68-year-old woman from Florida, learned this the day she took a photo with her granddaughter on Clearwater Beach. She loved the moment, but when she looked at the picture later, all she could see was how sharply the dark frame of her hair emphasized every shadow on her face. The smile was warm, the memory beautiful. Yet the color made her features look harsher than she felt. What happens with jet black is less about the color itself and more about the contrast it creates. Mature skin loses some of its natural luminosity. The undertones become more delicate, and the surface reflects light differently than it did decades earlier. Jet black, being the deepest shade on the spectrum, absorbs light and creates a stark border around the face. Instead of softening your features, it outlines them. Instead of lifting the eyes, it draws attention to areas where light naturally diminishes with age, like the under-eye region or the fine lines around the mouth. The result isn't a loss of beauty, it's a mismatch between color and complexion. Color theory helps explain this reaction. When the contrast between hair and skin becomes too extreme, the viewer's eye locks onto the edges rather than the expression. On younger skin with more brightness and pigment, black feels bold and balanced. On mature skin, it can feel heavy, almost like the hair is visually weighing the face down. Even women who have worn black their entire adult lives often notice that as soon as they soften the shade, their complexion looks brighter and more rested. The solution isn't abandoning depth. Many women look stunning with rich, dark tones. What makes the difference is dimension and warmth. Shades like espresso brown, dark chocolate, or warm Chestnuts still offer sophistication, but they allow light to reflect instead of getting swallowed. Adding a few subtle highlights around the face creates soft movement that lifts the features naturally. Imagine sunlight catching those lighter strands, creating a gentle halo rather than a stark frame. That tiny shift in reflection can soften the jawline, brighten the eyes, and give the skin a more radiant finish without ever feeling artificial. Women often tell me that, when they finally let go of flat black, they expected to feel like they were losing part of their identity. But more often, they feel the opposite. Once the color softens, their face feels open again, their expression more visible, their confidence more aligned with who they truly are today. The hair doesn't overpower the face, it supports it. That kind of harmony is what makes a woman look genuinely elegant at any age. And this brings us to another surprising group of shades colors that seem sophisticated and subtle on the surface, but can quietly drain warmth and life from the skin. Let's move into the next category of tones that may be aging you without you realizing it. Part 2: Ash tones: ash blonde, ash brown, smoky beige. Ash shades have a quiet elegance to them. They sound refined, sophisticated, understated, the kind of colors women often choose when they want something soft and natural. But on mature skin, these cool, muted tones can turn unexpectedly unforgiving. Nancy, a 64-year-old woman from New Jersey, chose an ash blonde because she wanted a modern, effortless look. She imagined a subtle, Parisian softness. But during a family barbecue one summer afternoon, she noticed in the photos that her face looked strangely flat, almost faded, as if the color had taken away warmth she still felt inside. The reason ash tones can be tricky lies in their gray-based pigments. These colors strip warmth by design. They mute golden or peaky hues and create a cool, smoky effect. That can be stunning on the right undertone, but for many women over 60, the skin naturally loses some of its internal glow and becomes slightly cooler on its own. When you pair a cool, muted hair color with a complexion that has already softened, everything begins to blend together. Instead of enhancing your features, the hair pulls the warmth out of your skin, making the face appear paler, less defined, and sometimes even slightly gray. Color theory offers a simple explanation: like enhances like, but it can also amplify what you don't want. When a cool, muted tone sits beside cool, muted skin, the overall effect becomes extremely low contrast. Without contrast, the eyes don't pop. The cheeks don't look lifted. The natural curve of the smile can lose dimension. You may not look older because of wrinkles or texture. You may old simply because the color has drained your expression. For women who choose ash tones believing they'll look effortless and natural, the disappointment can feel confusing. Nancy told me she didn't mind looking her age. She simply wanted to look alive. That's the key difference. Mature beauty isn't about removing every sign of age, it's about preserving vitality. And vitality needs light. When warmth returns to the hair, even subtly the entire face responds. Neutral beige, soft golden blonde, honey brown, champagne blonde, or neutral taupe can bring back just enough radiance to restore balance without looking brassy or overpowering. These shades reflect light instead of absorbing it, giving the skin a gentle glow. For women who truly love their ash tones, adding warm highlights around the face can be a game changer. Those delicate ribbons of warmth don't necessarily change the overall shade, but they lift the complexion in a way the camera immediately notices. One of my clients, a 61-year-old woman from Colorado, kept her smoky beige but added a few soft, golden face framing pieces. She said it felt like turning on a light she didn't realize had gone out. That's the power of subtle warmth on mature skin. It doesn't change who you are, it reveals what's still vibrant. Ash tones are not the enemy. In fact, they can be stunning when balanced correctly. But when they lean too cool or too muted, they quietly erase the liveliness in the skin. And unlike jet black, which creates too much contrast, ash tones often age women by creating too little. The challenge is finding the midpoint where tone, warmth, and expression meet. As we move deeper into colors that can unintentionally add years, there's another shade many women turn to for convenience. One that promises to blend gray beautifully, but often ends up washing out the entire face. Let's step into the world of ultra-light blondes and understand why going too pale can be just as aging as going too dark. Part 3: Bleached Light Blonde. There's a moment many women over 60 experience but rarely talk about. It's that moment when you try to go lighter, much lighter, hoping the brightness will soften the grays, brighten the skin, and somehow make everything feel fresh again. Karen, a 70-year-old grandmother from Texas, felt exactly this when she decided to bleach her hair to a pale, icy blonde. She believed it would make her gray roots less noticeable. And at first, under the salon lights, it seemed like it worked. The color looked bold, modern, even fun. But a few weeks later, standing under the warm lights of her high school reunion, she barely recognized the reflection staring back at her. Her skin looked drained, her features blurred, and the hair that once felt exciting now washed her out completely. This is the hidden risk of going too light. Bleached blonde removes depth, warmth, and the natural refractive layer that gives hair its shine. Without that subtle reflection, the hair can appear matte or even brittle. And when hair loses shine, the skin loses its glow by association. Mature skin thrives on light that moves, light that bounces, light that enhances. But ultralight blondes tend to flatten that interaction. Instead of helping the face feel lifted, they often dissolve the very contrast that keeps the eyes bright and the complexion lively. Women sometimes assume that if they go paler, their gray roots will blend seamlessly. In theory, it sounds logical. But in practice, the opposite often happens. The lighter the base, the more obvious any variation becomes. Karen told me that after bleaching, her roots didn't disappear. They stood out even more sharply, because the rest of her hair lacked the dimension to support them. The irony wasn't lost on her. She tried to hide the gray, but ended up highlighting it instead. The emotional impact of this shift is powerful. Mature women don't chase youth, they chase authenticity. They want their hair to reflect who they are now. Vibrant, wise, warm, not to mute or erase what makes them uniquely beautiful. That's why overly pale blondes can feel unsettling. They don't only lighten the hair, they lighten the presence. They can make a woman who is full of life appear tired before she even says a word. The solution isn't abandoning blonde altogether. Blonde can be incredibly flattering at 60, 70, and beyond if it has dimension, tone, and softness. Buttery blonde, cream blonde, champagne blonde, and multi-dimensional balayage offer warmth without heaviness. These shades allow the light to travel across the hair, giving the illusion of thicker strands and a naturally luminous finish. When Karen eventually moved to a warmer cream blonde with delicate lowlights, she told me, asking if she had changed her skincare, not her hair color. That's what the right tone does, it lifts the face gently, almost invisibly. So I want to ask you something. Have you ever gone lighter thinking it would brighten your look, only to feel more washed out instead? It's a surprisingly common experience, and it usually has nothing to do with age, only with balance. Your hair color doesn't need to overpower your features or erase them. It should elevate them. Bleached blonde teaches an important truth. Many women don't realize until they see themselves in a candid photo too little. Contrast can age you just as fast as too much. And if that surprises you, Wait until you see what happens when warmth in the hair goes wrong, not by being too soft, but by slipping into harsh, brassy tones that appear without warning. Let's explore why unwanted brassiness can age even the most polished woman almost overnight. Part 4: Brassy or orange tones. Few things frustrate women over 60 more than watching a beautiful hair color slowly shift into something harsh and unintended. Diane, a 62-year-old retired teacher from California, knew this feeling all too well. She started with a gorgeous soft blonde that made her complexion look warm and refreshed. But after a summer spent gardening under the California sun, her soft, blonde turned brassy, an uneven orange cast that made her skin look ruddy and tired, no matter how much makeup she tried to adjust. Brassiness doesn't just alter the hair's tone, it changes the entire mood of the face. When bleaching or repeated heat tint styling exposes the underlying red and yellow pigments in the hair, those tones can clash sharply with mature skin. Especially for women whose undertone leans cool or neutral. The brassy shift highlights exactly the areas they'd prefer to soften, like redness around the nose, small capillaries, or uneven patches along the cheeks. Suddenly, instead of creating a polished frame for the face, the hair broadcasts a kind of uneven warmth that ages the appearance almost instantly. Diane told me she didn't understand what had changed. The cut was the same. The style was the same, but there was something about the color that made her reflection look fatigued. That's because brassiness acts like the wrong lighting on a beautiful painting. It muddies the fine details. It dulls the softness. It overpowers the natural glow that should be there. The emotional impact can be surprisingly deep. For many older women, maintaining color isn't vanity. It's a form of self-respect. A way of showing the world they still care about themselves. When brassiness creeps in, it feels like the effort isn't paying off, like the color is slipping away faster than it should. And that frustration builds, because brassiness often arrives quietly, almost overnight, right when you think your shade is finally perfect. But here's the optimistic truth: brassiness is one of the easiest aging effects to fix. A quick salon gloss or toner can neutralize the harsh tones and restore elegance in minutes. At home, a purple shampoo can cancel yellow, while a blue formula neutralizes orange. It's simple color science, but it works beautifully on mature hair. And choosing the right base tone, cool beige, neutral caramel, or a balanced soft brown, can help prevent brassiness before it begins. Diane finally visited her colorist, who added a cool beige gloss and some subtle lowlights for depth. The result was immediate. Her skin looked calmer. Her eyes appeared brighter, she said. Her whole expression felt like it had exhaled. That instant shift is what makes tone correction so powerful for women over 60. You don't need drastic changes, just intentional color harmony that brings your natural radiance forward. So let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed your hair turning slightly orange or yellow after a few weeks, and wondered why your face suddenly looked more tired or uneven? You're not imagining it. Brassiness doesn't just change the hair. It changes the way your skin reads to the eye. And while brassy tones can be corrected, there's another color-related issue that's far more subtle. It can make even the most elegant woman look older. Not because the shade is wrong, but because it's missing something essential: dimension. Let's move into the world of flat gray and see why even the most empowering color can age you, if it's handled the wrong way. Part 5: Flat gray. Gray hair can be one of the most beautiful, empowering choices a woman makes after 60. When it's done well, it looks luxurious, modern, and effortlessly elegant. But when gray becomes flat, one solid block of color, without shine or dimension, it can unintentionally dull the features it should enhance. Helen, a 72-year-old artist from Oregon, realized this after she decided to fully embrace her natural gray. She stopped coloring, expecting a soft, silvery tone to emerge. Instead, what grew in was a muted, matte gray that seemed to drain the life from her expression. Her curls, once full of movement, now looked like they'd lost their rhythm. The reason flat gray can be aging isn't because gray itself is unflattering. In fact, gray can be stunning. The challenge is that as hair loses pigment, it also loses structure and reflectiveness. Without color molecules to anchor light, porous strands scatter illumination rather than bouncing it back. That scattering effect makes the hair look lifeless, which in turn makes the skin appear less vibrant. Mature skin needs a gentle play of light to look fresh. When the hair provides none, the entire face feels subdued, as if someone turned down the dimmer switch. Helen told me she felt disconnected from her reflection. She still felt creative, expressive, and alive, but her hair didn't mirror that energy. That's the emotional impact of flat gray. It doesn't age you because of the color, it ages you because it hides your spark. Women who choose gray do so with pride, not resignation. But even gray needs intention to showcase a woman's strength, rather than silence it. Dimension is the secret that turns gray from dull to breathtaking. A few subtle lowlights in silver, slate, or soft mushroom tones create shadow and movement that mimic natural depth. A gloss treatment can neutralize unwanted yellowing and restore that shimmering, pearlescent quality many women admire. And styling becomes even more important with gray. A soft, layered bob, gentle waves, or a bit of lift at the crown can catch light in ways flat gray never could. When gray hair moves, it reflects life, and that, more than anything, brings youthfulness back into the face. I want to ask you something. If you've embraced gray, does it make you feel radiant, or does it sometimes make you feel invisible? Many women are surprised when they realize the issue isn't the choice of going gray, but the lack of variation within the gray. Dimension gives gray its beauty, its elegance, its presence. Helen eventually added a mix of silver and charcoal lowlights, along with a cool gloss to enhance brightness. The transformation was subtle but powerful. She didn't look younger in a forced way, she looked illuminated. Her features felt more defined, her eyes brighter, her smile more noticeable. She looked like herself again, not washed out by flatness but lifted by light. And this brings us to the most important realization of all. Whether your hair is dark, blonde, warm, cool, or gray, the shade itself is only half the story. What truly shapes your appearance is how well your color harmonizes with your skin, your undertone, and the way you want to express yourself now. So, let's bring everything together and uncover the guiding principles that help every woman over 60 choose a hair color that truly brings her face and her confidence back to life. Part 6: How to choose the right hair color after 60. Finding the right hair color after 60 is not about erasing age. It's about creating harmony. The most radiant older women I've worked with didn't look younger because of their hair. More present, more themselves. And that begins with understanding the relationship between skin undertone, natural contrast, and the way mature skin reflects light. For Mary, a 66-year-old nurse from Minnesota with unmistakably cool undertones, everything changed when she shifted from a dull, ash brown to a cooler mushroom beige with soft, pearly highlights. Her face didn't suddenly look 20 years younger. It looked brighter, rested, and aligned with her natural coloring. Women with cool undertones tend to glow in shades like champagne blonde, silver gray with dimension, soft top browns, and anything that avoids excessive warmth. When cool skin meets cool color, the effect is refined, not icy, not harsh, just beautifully balanced. Carol, a 63-year-old grandmother from Texas, had the opposite experience. Her warm undertones never harmonized with the ashy shades she thought looked professional. But the day she embraced golden chestnut, caramel ribbons, and honey-touched browns, her entire complexion softened. Warm undertones respond best to warmth, not brassy warmth, but controlled, intentional warmth that echoes the natural golden notes in the skin. When the hair mirrors the skin, the glow is undeniable. Janet from California sits in that rare neutral space. At 61, she realized both warm and cool shades could work for her, but only with dimension. Beige blondes, balanced browns, and multi-tonal grays all suited her, but the magic happened when subtle highlights brought depth back to her face. Neutral undertones thrive on variety, but they fall flat without contrast. Patricia in New York, who has deep skin and dark eyes, discovered that rich tones espresso, deep chocolate, chestnut mahogany didn't overpower her features the way lighter shades did. In fact, Singh's depth made her look more polished and confident. Mature women with naturally strong contrast often benefit from maintaining that richness. It keeps the face defined and expressive. And then there's Gloria from Arizona, whose undertone shifts with the seasons because of all the sun exposure. She learned that protecting her hair color with gloss treatments and UV sprays became just as important as choosing the right shade. With mature hair, maintenance isn't vanity, it's preservation. Gloss enhances shine, tone corrects fading, and good care keeps the color aligned with the skin. So let me ask you this: when you look in the mirror, do you feel your hair color brings light to your face or drains it away? That one question can tell you more than any chart or guide. Because the right color doesn't shout. It doesn't compete. It simply enhances what's already beautiful about you. And now that you understand the principles behind choosing the most flattering shade, it's time to bring everything home, because the final message is not just about color. It's about confidence, presence, and the kind of elegance that only grows stronger with age. Let's move into the closing thoughts that tie this entire journey together. If there's one truth to take from this entire journey, it's that age doesn't diminish your beauty, it refines it. What changes over time isn't your capacity to look radiant. It's simply the kind of light your features respond to. And hair color, more than almost anything else, plays a powerful role in shaping that light. The wrong shade can pull your expression downward, but the right one can lift your face, soften your features, and reflect the confidence you've earned. You've seen how overly dark tones can create harsh contrast, how ash shades can fade your warmth, how ultra-light blondes can wash you out, how brassiness can steal your elegance, and how flat gray can mute the glow you still carry. And you've also seen that none of these issues require drastic reinvention. The most beautiful transformations come from subtle adjustments, softened depths, added dimension, intentional warmth, or a tone that harmonizes with your skin rather than fighting it. There is something incredibly empowering about realizing that you're not aging out of beauty, you're aging into a new version of it. A version shaped by wisdom, by presence, and by the freedom to define yourself on your own terms. Color is simply the tool that helps reveal what has been there all along. So I encourage you to take a moment and look in the mirror with fresh eyes. Ask yourself whether your current color amplifies your natural radiance or whether it's time for a gentle shift. And if you're unsure, you're not alone. Share your questions, your undertone, your current shade in the comments. I love helping women find colors that make them light up. If this video helped you recognize what's possible, I'd be grateful if you gave it a like. It helps the channel reach more women who deserve to feel confident and seen. And if you want more guidance on timeless beauty, modern style, and embracing every season of life with grace, make sure to subscribe. There's so much more to explore together. Elegance isn't about perfection. It's about presence, your presence. And when your hair color supports that presence, you don't just look radiant. You feel